Boutique Care offers you a unique exclusive membership in our nationwide concierge medical services network. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Judine Bontemps-Hill. I'm double board certified in family and obesity medicine. We pair exclusive personalized care with accessibility and convenience. A better way for you to receive immediate quality medical care. Whether at our main Orlando, Florida office, traveling across the U.S. or visiting the States, we bring you the best medical care without waiting for an appointment. Become a member today by calling 407-234-5282 or visit us online at jbhmeg1.com. JBH Boutique Care is proud to sponsor Sounds of the Diaspora, music and conversations with artists, and host Dion Parson every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sounds of the Diaspora, artist to artist, conversation with Dion Parson. It's an honor and a pleasure to welcome my guest tonight, someone that I was fortunate to meet in Cuba many, many years ago in the early 2000s, and recently got reacquainted with them as she visited the Virgin Islands with her group Makike, performing at the Forum concert series. So please join me in welcoming from Toronto, the one and only Miss Jane Bunnett.
Pleasure.
Hey there.
Hey, thank you very much for inviting me.
Welcome to Sounds of the Diaspora. How you doing today?
I'm good. How about you?
I am well. I'm really excited to have you on the show. We've been talking about having you on for a while, and we were able to make this happen. And one of the reasons why I'm excited is because you're doing some phenomenal stuff with your group, and you're in Toronto holding it down up there, making a mark for yourself, trailblazing. And but you have a really wonderful project and a nice association and relationship with the Caribbean. Again, hence Sounds of the Diaspora. And I want to get into that, but I want our audience, I'd like to start off with our audience to just get to know the artistry behind Jane Bunnett. So, let us know a little bit about yourself, your musical upbringing, and how do you get started?
Well, I'm from my family. How do I say? My family's not really a musical family, but they were always very open to the arts. I'm the youngest of three children, 7 years between my sister and I, and then my older brother, 7 years for my sister and my brother. So my upbringing was very, how do we say it? Not extremely disciplined, but very open. My parents were great art lovers, more into the visual arts than I would say music. But my dad was a huge, fan of Count Basie and Duke Ellington. That whole genre of music, and they didn't have the opportunities, my parents, to study music, but they were very appreciative of music. So that was encouraged, in my family. But as a child, my parents moved from a smaller house to a larger house when I was 1 year old. Probably because of me. I was probably such a terror. They needed a bigger house. But the house came with a piano. And this was a plus for my father, because he loved music. And he was from a sort of a dairy farm background. So a piano was just something that was out of the question. But he loved the fact that this house came with a piano. So I was the one that really gravitated quickly to the piano.
Okay.
And so I just started, tinkling away, and then I had lessons and I rebelled, and that didn't work as a child. And I played in the school band in grade 5 and 6, the clarinet, which I loved. But I didn't own a clarinet. That's a kind of a longer story, but I might say this part of the story. They wanted the music teacher thought I had a very good ear, and so he wanted me to play the violin, and I really didn't want to play the violin. I wanted a shiny instrument. I really had my heart set on something that shined. And then they tried the cello, and no, I didn't want to play that. I wanted the flute first, but there was 2 flutes in the band department. They were both gone, and the clarinets were gone. But eventually, I said, "Okay, I'll play the clarinet. I'll play the clarinet." And he brought me his own personal clarinet. So I always find that it really interesting. You know, when you go back to these little things that happen, the nuances that music teacher. Mr. Yardley was his name. Is Scottish. He wore a toupee, which I remember, and sometimes the toupee was backwards. But anyway, and for the first 3 weeks of me playing the clarinet, I had the mouthpiece upside down. I was like, I really don't know if I like this instrument. My lip is vibrating way too much. And he finally realized it. But anyway, so I had the clarinet, his own personal clarinet, which was great. And that got me started. And then I got in the all city band, which was all these kids all over Toronto. It was like a little band, but played at Massey Hall. They had this big grand concert. It was pretty terrific. I don't think you could do this kind of thing nowadays, but gathered students from all over the public schools and put together an orchestra. And actually recorded it. It's my first appearance at Massey Hall, actually.
Nice.
1967. Yeah. So I rebelled against piano lessons because I was pretty undisciplined kid. But I loved music, and I was always creating at the piano. My second music teacher would like show me what to play, and at the end of the lesson I had it together, and by the time I came back for the next lesson I totally reinterpreted the whole piece, and it was not what so there'd be fights at the piano, so I quit many times music, just wanting to do it on my own. And then I got very serious when I was about 15, 16, because at that point I'd been kicked out of, I hate to say it, 2 schools. Okay. Yeah, I was just rambunctious and highly creative, and in a kind of not good being contained, and it's sort of a classic ADD kid. Anyway, but anyhow, I finally got very serious about the piano, and then, because I've been a bit of a quitter at many things, I decided I was going to go for my grade 10 piano, and I started studying with a very good piano teacher who actually just lived around the corner. His name was Harry Heap, and he was very serious. And I remember I went in and I played theme to The Love Story. I think I played theme to Romeo and Juliet, and then I played the first Bach prelude for him. And he was like, I don't teach this kind of music, like you're playing pop tunes, but I can hear that you're musical. Mm-hmm. And the way you just played that Bach prelude, that was beautiful. And there's another side story to that, because my next door neighbor was a German woman, very old, who had been a concert pianist in Germany, and she started to sort of influence me a lot. Mm. So that's why I got into that the Bach prelude in C major. So I started studying with him, and he really kicked my butt, as they say. And I got very serious about the piano. I got my grade 10, but at the same time I got tendinitis. And at that time I was 18, and I was upset because I finally sort of settled down, and thought, maybe I'm going to be a concert pianist, which was not really a realistic thing. And but I was going to have an operation, and we decided not to do that because it just seemed silly. And so I went to San Francisco with my cousin, which was the doctor's next suggestion: don't do surgery, take total rest and see what happens. So I did that for 6 weeks. And on that trip, I heard Charles Mingus's group at Keystone Corner in San Francisco. I had heard Mingus a couple of times. I'd gone with my dad to matinees and with my big brother. Because at that time, when the bands came through to the Colonial Tavern, which was our best jazz club in Toronto, they had Saturday matinees. The bands came in for like a week and did a Saturday matinee. And I heard Mingus a couple times, and it was, it really had an effect on me, because, well, music was powerful, but also it was extremely theatric too. So when you went to a Mingus, at that age, it seemed like theater at the same time. And so I went to hear Mingus at Keystone 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights. Ironically, Don Pullen was in the group at the time.
Okay.
So I ended up later, he became, like one of my super mentor heroes, made 4 records with him, went to Cuba with him. We did a lot of things together.
Don was great.
And, sorry?
I said Don was great.
Oh,
yeah. He
was just one of the most beautiful people I've had in my life. But yeah, so I came back from that trip and I was like, I want to play jazz. And, but I had no concept of there was no jazz universities. There was no place to go study the music. And, and also I just, I kept saying, well, I just had this mental thing that only people of color played jazz, and only people that were poor played jazz. I had a very stigma about where it was all coming from. I didn't realize it was it was just as much studied as classical piano or all of that. Mm-hmm. And but then so I was a little frustrated, and I was playing along with records. I had a Herbie Mann record. I had Yusef Lateef with Bill Evans. I had, of course, I had a couple of Mingus. My big brother had a great record collection, and I would go in there and siphon through, the stuff that he had. But anyway, so one day, my life has been a series of accidents, going to Cuba, doing this and that have created these amazing things. But I took a detour going home, and I walked up a different street than I normally did, and I saw this little house that said, it was a duplex, and it said New School of Music. And I was like, oh, what is this New School of Music? And I'm a very curious person. Nothing, if something intrigues me, I'll just go for it. So I walked up the stairs and went in, and the fellow was sitting, Howard Spring was his name, was sitting at a desk. And I said, what's this New School of Music? And he said, well, we're kind of a collective. There's like 5 or 6 people here, and 2 saxophone teachers, and we play jazz. And I was like, really? And he said, we're setting up like little workshops on Saturdays. And I was like, really? I was like, wow, sign me up. And right. So I jumped into that so heavy. Like I just went for it. And I started meeting like-minded people that loved the music. And I started going out to clubs more, and I was going to record stores, and I got this Joni Mitchell record. I love this piece called My Analyst Told Me. And, the record store guy, you don't know who wrote that piece, really down on you, it's John Lambert Hendrickson Ross. It's Annie Ross, and it's called Twisted, little girl. And
I guess he told you, huh?
So all these things, everything just started to create this journey for me.
Right.
So so much of my journey has been meeting like doing it in this fashion. I started going out to the clubs, and then I started playing, in these little workshops, which were just awesome. Like I was probably the youngest. It was like older cats that were there, like construction worker who loved playing the tenor, and it was like real mishmash of people.
So I was asking, at that time, you still playing piano? You were playing saxophone at the time?
So no, I'm not playing saxophone yet. The saxophone comes. I didn't pick up the saxophone until I was like 32, 34. I'm a late bloomer on the saxophone. Like I'm doing such catch up with all the greats out there. But I had to stop the piano. I still kind of do it for writing and stuff. But then I was playing a little bit of flute, and then a friend of mine, he was actually his father had an alto sax, and he was the piano player. His name was Richard Bell. He was he played with the band, and he played with Dylan, and he was on the road with I'm just so blank with a bunch of people, but he lent me his father's alto sax, so I was playing that for a bit. Later the soprano sax came, but anyway, so yeah, I was just doing that, and just sort of trying to find my way, and playing, learning standards and stuff. And yeah, then a little bit late. So when did this happen then? I guess I'm just sort of trying to find my way, and I met a young, well, we're young, we're like 20. No, we're 20. She was doing the workshop, Marilyn Lerner, and we started, let's try and get some gigs. We're crazy. And so we're learning. Well, we know all the things you are, and we got us a blues down. And so we would go out, and we would, go out to like little bistros and all kinds of, any place that would, like, she'd haul her piano out, and I'd haul my flute and my alto, and we'd convince them to like let us play like for a couple hours, and we make like $20 each. Mm-hmm. But we started to learn all the standards, and just sort of get it together that way, and then I really started to get quite serious about it, and I met, I guess, Larry, my husband, who's trumpet player and producer, when I guess I'm about 21, 22 now. And so we started to do like some workshops, like putting together players and stuff. And then I started, the really great thing that started to happen was because of the couple of the clubs in Toronto was musicians like James Moody and Frank West and Clifford Jordan, and a long list of people like that would come through to play for a week. And I would, be going there a couple times during the week. And at this time, I'm like working as a waitress, and I started playing in a Greek band, which was a whole other crazy story. Nobody spoke any English. I was learning all these crazy Greek tunes without any music. But that was so good for my ear. And doing that, and I would ask some of these great musicians, like, I knew that they would be, playing like Saturday night and Sunday night, and I would ask it, could I come and have a lesson? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I would have these private lessons. Moody would come into town, and I have a lesson with James Moody and Frank West, and Clifford Jordan would come over here have a lesson and have a bowl of soup. And it was like, I was just meeting all these just amazing musicians that were so kind, and I was such a keener. I guess, I just surprised them all,
Right.
Anyhow, and then later, around this time, I started going, I heard about Barry Harris's class in New York, mm-hmm. and Larry and I started jumping on the bus and going down to Barry's classes. So we would go down on a Thursday. Oh, those were brutal. 10-hour trip, and I'd go catch the last couple of hours of his class. go the next couple of nights and then come back on a Sunday on the bus. Mm-hmm. So Barry Harris became a huge influence, of course, and still is. I'm just actually going back and getting into a bunch of Barry stuff again because there's just so much there is so valuable. And then we started having workshops in our own house. So when musicians would come in, if it was John Hicks or, man, you wouldn't believe some of the people that have come, like John Chakai, Jimmy Nepper. Mm-hmm. There's, like, I could go on with Slim Gaillard. Slim Gaillard, we did some crazy things with Slim Gaillard here. He lived off and on in our home for 4 years. So our house, Larry and I, wherever we lived, we always sort of created workshop type environments for ourselves, inviting people in, charging them some money, but at the same time getting, ourselves the free classes and the hang and the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just, it's so great talking to you, Dion, because I start to think, sometimes you don't think about all this stuff that has brought you to where you are, like my journey. And I thank you for letting me talk about that, because my journey is like most people I know, they didn't really, everyone's got their own course and how they go about getting to where they are and are still on it too. But, that it's so different. My course is not one of academia. It's been like really on the ground. So I should stop talking and let you say something.
No, this is great. I didn't even know. I can't even say half of this. This is great because I know our listeners are intrigued. What we're trying to do is just like share the story of each artist. And like you say, your story is not one of academia. A lot of many of our guests come on and they have an academia story to tell, but what I enjoy about what you're sharing is, being in Toronto, being without the resources, you did it the same way that the music was developed. You created a scene. You went and found people to apprentice with. You created workshops. You surrounded yourself with other creative minds, and you shared the information. So that's is from an organic standpoint. That's the way you do it. Academia is great. Also, I'm not knocking that. That's a resource. But the music was developed in person. You went and met the musicians, and you spend time, and you break bread, and you got to know them, and that's what makes it so unique. I mean, again, being just like me being in the Virgin Islands, I didn't have the resources either. I had to leave to get the resources.
Yeah.
Growing up, I used to jump on my bike and go to musicians' homes on a Saturday and sit there from 10 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, just listening to records with them telling me what to do and trying to figure. I didn't even own drums. So I remember when I went, I got to the university, but I couldn't even pass the audition. A lot of people don't know that about me, but it's really hearing your story. So I'm happy. I'm smiling because I'm like, wow. You have to go out and you have to go out and find the information. There was,
but and in the case of I wouldn't trade any in some ways I got a lot of loopholes and things don't. I remember working with Charlie Hayden and Dewey Redman. We did a big concert here in Toronto, and I remember Charlie he was just saying, oh man, I wish I'd gone to university. Like everything takes me so long. He was actually talking about one of the tunes he'd written. Mm-hmm. Might have been Sandino. He says everything just takes me so long, but these students now they just boom, 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 they can do it. And I wish, and so and I feel the same way. But at the same time, I wouldn't trade the experiences and the richness of the relationships that I've had with so many of these musicians and the stories, they just such beautiful stories with with hanging out with these guys,
I think the journey is what builds the character, builds the musicianship.
Yeah.
You go to school for 4 years. You know, if I do all of these things in 4 years, I'll get a degree, and that's your journey. You wake up every day. You could predict, I got to go to class. I got to do this.
Yeah.
Predict that. But your journey was one of non-predicament. You woke up every day, and you know, whether it was James Moody or Don Flynn or Barry Harris or whoever, you didn't know what was going to happen.
No, there's no guarantee. But you know what? There was always, like, with all of these guys, it was like there was such a positivity.
Yeah.
Like, because they were out there doing it.
Yeah.
Like, and they'd been doing it for, like, you know, when I met them, for like already 30 years.
Right.
And so it was like, you know, and it's the old cliche that, you know, and I first heard Dewey Redman say it, but now I've heard many people say it, you know, since you take care of the music takes care of you. And it's really, really,
there you go.
It's really true.
Yeah. So many people say that. Todd Barkin says that a lot at concerts and stuff. A lot of people say that, but in the sake of time, because this is so great, I'm enjoying this conversation. We have some music to play, but before we get to the music, you have a group called Marquique, and it's comprised of some very talented, amazing musicians from Cuba. Can you just talk about that briefly? About how it came out?
Dion, the project came together like as it was a kind of a one-off, not a one-off, but it was sort of a leap of faith. Like, for 30 years, my husband Larry Kramer and I, trumpet player, we had been doing a group called Spirits of Havana, and in that group, like, all these incredible players have come through Spirits of Havana. Yeah, it's Hilario Duran and Pedrito Martinez, Daphne Preto, Elio Villafranca, long list, Francisco Mella. And all these guys have gone onto like amazing careers, band leaders in their own, you know, right? And I kept sort of saying to Larry, you know, on our various visits to Cuba, I keep meeting all these women when we go to the conservatories, because that's always been a part of our trips, is to check in. We had an organization for a while, it's sort of on a stall right now, but taking instruments to Cuba and technicians actually to work on the pianos, et cetera, et cetera. And I was meeting these young girls, and they were never out on the scene. I hear them playing at school, and they were so good.
Right.
25 conservatories in Cuba, 5 of them in Havana. And why are they not out playing? And a couple of times I would see the girls at a show, you know, a jam session, and I'd say, "Where's your violin?" or "Where's your trombone?" And said, "Well, my boyfriend's up there playing." And I was like, "What? Well, my boyfriend's up here playing too." So that shouldn't stop you, because my boyfriend's up there playing the trumpet. So I kept talking about this, and Larry said, "Stop talking about it and do something." And I said, finally, so we went down and we sort of did it on a whim. We did it on our own nickel. We sort of secretly checked out musicians that we thought would have the, you know, the kind of sensibility, because foremost, we're a jazz group, but still incorporating, you know, Cuban rhythms and you know, the sensibility of Afro-Cuban music within the context of jazz. And so it was important to have, you know, that girls that would be able to think that way. And so we assembled a group, and it was pretty tough. Well, the rehearsals were really tough because we were going through blackouts and sitting in the dark and nothing was happening. And then we went into the studio very unrehearsed because of the blackouts. We spent a lot of money making this record, and was like, oh my God, what a terrible idea. And, you know, the girls they didn't really all know each other. They knew about each other, but never played together, and everybody at various levels. But we did this record and came back and worked on the mixing and all that stuff. And then it ended up getting a Juno, which is like a American Grammy. So that was 2015. And I was like, well, maybe let's see what happens. So sent the record out across Canada, and we got our first tour. So that established Mekeke. Now, since Mekeke, we are now in our 10th year. Mm-hmm. And it's been same thing as sort of with the guys. The girls have come through and moved on to doing their own things. Daimi Orsena, doing terrifically. Yusa doing amazing. Still a couple key members, but they're still doing their own projects. Jesse Garcia, Celia Jimenez, just did some shows with her. But so it's kind of a collective. Right. And I hope to keep the group going. I'd like to expand it. We've had drummer from Ivana Cuesta from Dominican Republic. She's incredible. Okay. And we've had someone from Argentina. The different diasporas all coming into the group and adding, into the mix. And so that's the concept, that it's, it is a collective.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's a great group, man. I remember you bringing the band to St. Thomas. Nicole brought you guys down for the forum, and you came to the University of the Virgin Islands.
And we had fun.
We had so much fun that night. I didn't want it to stop.
Oh my God, we had too much fun.
Oh man, I just enjoyed playing clave and just checking out the relationship with the musicians, and they had their thing going on. So yeah, I'm really excited about the music that you put together, because it's very welcoming to hear that quality music coming from those young musicians and the talent that they have. And everybody was so humble, and everybody worked together. And what I really appreciated was that they all had the same message for my students, which was very, from an academic standpoint, because again, we talked about coming up in a raw, organic environment versus academia. And even though they came from the conservatory, in Cuba and in the Caribbean, you still have the organic elements. You still have to go in the streets and figure it out. That's what I enjoyed the most. It had the sense of two worlds coming together to create that sound. And
there's definitely a connection, for sure.
All of that together. So I would like to play some of this music, so our audience can hear this rich musical sound of this collective called Mekeke that you put together.
Thank you.
Yes. So the first song is called Human Race. Let's check it out. love it. I love it. Love it. So I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I enjoy the clave. You know me. I love the claves. 2-3 clave. I love it. I love it. That's a beautiful thing. But the melody and the voices are like, I find it really amazing that the melodic structure of the entire tune have vocals to it. That's unique.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's very unique. You don't really hear that because they weren't singing lyrics; they were vocalizing, which is very unique. So, I don't know who the vocalists are, but I thought it was amazing.
It's a whole band. Like that's the thing with our group is like, 3 of the musicians can sing, so we have these. I look at it like a string trio or a quartet, like blowing behind us. So I try and work with when I'm sitting at the piano. Sometimes the vocal parts, but sometimes these guys just come up with them themselves. So
right.
I can't take credit for that. No.
Yeah, I find it amazing because that's a very unique sound, and I noticed that in a lot of Caribbean music there's a lot of the musicians sings background also, and especially music. So you play in a groove, and they're vocalizing as they're singing. So that's great. But can you tell us before we go any further, because I know our audience they just want to know who these talented musicians are. So can you tell us the members of this particular group?
So on the last piece, for example, we just heard. So on piano is Diane Olano. The pianist. On the bass is Taylin Marrero. On the drums is Jissy Garcia. On the percussion is Mary Paz. On vocals is Joanna Mijoko. And me, Jane Bunnett.
Great, beautiful.
That's
beautiful.
the band.
Our audience knows because I know people are asking like, man, who's making this beautiful music? So that's great. So that's Makike. So that's the first song. We have another song that you shared with us that I would love for our audience to hear. It's entitled Tomorrow. Let's check it out. Tomorrow.
Woke from a dream as night left and morning came. My heart's still weak, I cried out, tomorrow came. I could be too naive to think it would feel differently. Forget the pain of yesterday and feel alive. Quiet, serene, and tender, a whisper came. It held my heart together, softened the pain. Reminded me of what could be, what lies ahead of me. Forget the pain of yesterday, I'll be alright.
Tomorrow. It's beautiful.
Hey, Dion, I realized I forgot one player in this mix, Donna Granis, who was the guitarist in Third Eyed Girl with Prince for about the late Prince for the last 12 years.
Okay.
She's now back in Toronto, and she guested on our recording on half of the record. So I'm sorry I forgot to mention her.
Ah, nice. Well, thank you for plugging her. So we have a comment from one of our guests just saying that they love the melody and the dynamics of the music is off the chain. So our audience, this is great stuff. I love the collaboration between Toronto and the Afro-Cuban diaspora. Is really nice, and I also love the fact that you created a platform for these young women to do their thing, because I know it's not easy bringing people in, and it's such a far distance just building that collaboration. But you know, some of the names you mentioned, like, you know,
financially.
I'll just say some of the names you mentioned, like Ilario Duran. I played with him in St. Thomas. He came down here to do performances, and I performed with him. And of course, Daphnis, we know he's doing amazing things. He's at the University of Miami. And Pedrito Martinez. When my first trip to Cuba, Pedrito was playing percussion, and that was his first time back after he left. Many years he came back with his daughter was like a year or 2 years old. We were all in that band with Steve Torre with the Shell Choir. That was a beautiful moment, and very nice to host us and take us around the island and share with us. And of course, Elio Villafranca, who I've worked with I started off this year in Uruguay with Elio, and last summer with a tour in Israel, in Ireland, not Israel, of Ireland with Elio. Yeah, so you've.
How was your? I went to Ireland with Elio. I can't remember how many years ago, but it was one of the most beautiful trips I've ever had in my life. Mm-hmm. Was your trip great?
Well, I'm not there this summer. I'm going there.
You're going? Oh my God!
Yes.
You won't. You're gonna. You might want to stay. No, I don't think so. But it's such a beautiful place. They love music so much in Ireland.
It's beautiful. We have one of our listeners sent a message to ask if you just did that particular arrangement of
yes.
That's you. Yes.
Yep.
Beautiful arrangement. So
Thank
great.
You.
Yeah. So thank you for the arrangement. Thank you for the inspiration you've brought with this group, but also the musicians that I've mentioned. And you can see we have a lot of mutual friends in common.
We have too many, so you better, when you come to Toronto, you gotta come here and hang out. We gotta talk about all these guys.
Yes, we'll make it happen.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, but that's the other side of the conversation. I'm gonna keep it moving.
Okay, all right.
keep it moving. On. You have a lot of music that you shared with us, so we have another song called Turquoise. Which I like this song, and I'll tell you why after we listen to it, and I'll see if you understand what I'm saying.
I've got a story about that one.
Yes. All right, let's check it out. I want to hear your story, but it's like, to me, it's like Tanya Maria meets Night in Tunisia meets Second Line New Orleans. That's what I hear.
Well, that's exactly. So when we recorded this piece, I wasn't convinced. Like, there was something like was really missing from it. I couldn't put my finger on it. I sent it to a friend of mine, Christopher Butcher. He's a wonderful trombone player. He's down in New Orleans now. He's from Winnipeg originally. Now it was in Toronto, and is now in New Orleans, and is starting to do a lot of studio stuff in the last 5 or 6 years. So I sent it to him, and I said to him, like, I think it needs some sort of New Orleans, some sort of thing in there, maybe tambourine. So he said, yeah, Gerald French. Now this guy is like so super legendary in New Orleans. So he came to Christopher's studio, and he just kept putting track down after track. He did like 5, he did 10, he did 50. He just said, no, he was like 2 hours like putting tracks down because he was so into the tune.
Yeah.
And for me, he makes that tune, that tambourine, just like jumping in there. It just all when Christopher sent that back to me, said, man, the guy was here all day. So I'm so happy, to have that connection. He's an amazing musician, and he made that tune happen. Yeah.
So that's good. So I wasn't off. So, but I hear it sounds like Tanya Maria to me. It's like, that's like straight up Tanya Maria. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, I know you guys are doing your thing, but I listen to a lot of Tanya Maria. Like, she plays the piano and she sings and vocalises at the same time. That's
incredible.
When it starts off, boom, chicka, dum, dum. I was like, okay, this is like an extension of Night in Tunisia. That's what I was hearing.
But how does she, like, I mean, the thing for me when you hear her do that, like, she's playing the piano and doing that at the same time. Well, I guess it's connected. It's just like one thing you're hearing, right? So you just do it. But she's incredible.
She's just singing what she's hearing, but it's great. We have another audience member shared a comment that said they love the vocal arrangements. They sound like another instrument, and that's what I said to you at the beginning. Yeah, it's not like it's just
said that.
Yeah, it's another voice in there, and then the grooves are just amazing. I'm sitting back enjoying this. I think I have the best seat in the house being the host, because before the show even starts, I take my time and I listen to each song and I kind of get in my vibe, and it sets the tone for the show. So I'm lucky to be able to do that. The artist is just hearing it now, but I can go back and replay. So
wow. Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, but we're running out of time. But Jane, has been so great having you on the show.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna wind down right now. We got one more, and this is a special one that you have, and it's called "A God Unknown." Just want to briefly share with us what that's about.
So I wrote, this piece, as a lot of the music on Playing with Fire was written during the COVID time. I was up as I mentioned to you, we were off camera, I guess, but up at my grandfather's log cabins.
Right.
Log cabins. So that means your grandfather goes out and cuts down trees and builds a house. So he did that in 1919, and we started to go back after COVID. We've had these cabins in our family. That's when I started preparing for Playing with Fire up at those cabins, just like being in solitude. And so this piece came out of being in isolation, and also reading a great book written by the novelist John Steinbeck, which is called A God Unknown.
Okay.
Really interesting book, very thought-provoking, all about establishing our roots as family, spirit, the connection to nature, to the gods unknown. So this book left me with a very big question mark, and then I wrote this tune.
Okay. Beautiful story. So let's check it out. A God.
Wawanko, for anybody who's like Afro-Cuban.
Okay.
It's a Wawanko.
Yeah. God Unknown. That's just beautiful. Ethereal. Our audience is really loving the music. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Dion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's someone also made a comment, said it's Caribbean Latin big band jazz in Canada. So you made that connection.
Yeah. Starting. We can answer him. Yes, it's starting to happen.
It started to happen all around. I know it's a challenge everywhere to keep the music going and to keep stuff happening, but you're doing it in your part of the world in Canada, and I applaud you for that. Continued success. And it's that time that we kind of have to wind down, but
yeah,
Jane, it's really been great hearing your story. I had no idea that that was your background, and I think it's a beautiful and amazing and inspiring background.
Well, thank you for that, because when we were there with you in the Virgin Islands, when we were playing your wonderful festival, we never had time to talk about anything because you were working so hard, and doing all the stuff you have to do to pull a festival together. So, appreciate the time to talk about all the history, and I hope we can do more of this. And thank you for everything you're doing there, and I'll hold it down here.
You hold it down there, and we will stay in touch and more collaborations in the future. How's that?
Thank you, Dion.
Thank you, Jane. It's been a pleasure. All the best.
Love.
Appreciate you. That was Jane Bunnett, Sounds of the Diaspora. Amazing, talented artist with her group Marquique doing wonderful things out of Canada and Cuba. We had a great time with Jane. So thank you, audience, for joining us. I just want to share with you that next week we have another talented musician. This is Mark Dover. Mark is part of the Imani Winds, producer, composer, clarinetist, educator, teaches at my alma mater, Rutgers University. And Mark will be joining us and bringing a whole nother presentation of Sounds of the Diaspora to you next week. So please join us next week for the show. Thank you. Take care. Have a good night. It was a good show.
JBH Boutique Care offers you a unique exclusive membership in our nationwide concierge medical services network. Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Judine Bontemps-Hill. I'm double board certified in family and obesity medicine. We pair exclusive personalized care with accessibility and convenience. A better way for you to receive immediate quality medical care. Whether at our main Orlando, Florida office, traveling across the U.S. or visiting the States, we bring you the best medical care without waiting for an appointment. Become a member today by calling 407-234-5282 or visit us online at jbhmeg1.com. JBH Boutique Care is proud to sponsor Sounds of the Diaspora, music and conversations with artists, and host Dion Parson every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C.